Good evening and welcome to the Islamic House of Wisdom nightly Ramadan program. We are going to start with recitation of the Holy Quran with Muhammad Hussein Elahi. بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Go ahead. Say.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والنازعات غرقا والناشطات نشطا والسابحات سبحا فالسابقات سبقا فالمدبرات أمرا يوم ترجف الراجفة تتبعها الرادفة قلوب يومئذ واجفة أبصارها خاشعة يقولون أئنا لمردودون في الحافرة أإذا كنا عظما ناخرة قالوا تلك إذا كرة خاسرة فإنما هي زجرة واحدة فإذا هم في الساهرة هل أتاك حديث موسى إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى فأراه الآيات الكبرى فكذب وعصى ثم أدبر يسعى فحشر فنادى فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أحسن.
What a beautiful recitation. This is one of the most beautiful that we've had so far. It's a great work. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. Good evening and welcome to the Islamic House of Wisdom nightly program. Before I introduce our speaker on reflection, I would like to remind you that every day at 12 p.m. Islamic House of Wisdom is distributing food in the community. If you need food or if anybody in your neighborhood needs food, please stop by Islamic House of Wisdom and pick it up. The program continues at 2 p.m. This is for Ramadan, Holy Quran Recitation, 6 to 7 p.m. Thursday through Sunday, Youth of Wisdom Zoom interactive program. And the nightly program starts at 9:30 with the Dua Iftitah. And then later on at 10 p.m. is the main program in which we are right now. And we're going to continue with the reflection on faith with Dr. Firas Hamade بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Seems that Dr. Firas is taking a very short break. I'd like to remind you that most of the services at Islamic House of Wisdom has turned into humanitarian services. And we're working, we're still open as in the office is open, and also providing the food program, providing other programs as well, and so we could use your support as well. And now that Dr.
We are open, but we are not gathering, so we don't want any misunderstanding.
This is why I said the office is open for certain hours, and and then now that Dr. Firas has joined us, we'll continue with reflection on faith with Dr. Firas Hamade بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So I guess it's my turn to speak first.
Yes.
Yeah, inshallah. So I would share my screen, and I will be talking about the empathy and the reflect and the impact of empathy on the society, specifically in turbulent times and during the upheavals that we are living in. So let me see if I shared. So it looks like I am not able to share from my side. Is it?
Try again, Hajj Firas. Dr. Firas, try again.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, talking, and I guess I have around 15 minutes. I choose the subject empathy, irrational virtue, but I will be tackling the subject from the text, from the Holy Scripture words, and from the reason and mind and the rationale. So in the introduction, I would say God doted the human being with the faculty of intellect. Then God ordered the intellect to reign over the human being life with ethics and morals. And God made empathy a jewel on the crown of morality. It is narrated in one of the accounts from Imam Ali that rational empathy and forbearance are the masters of moral. So speaking about empathy is speaking about a ubiquitous entity. The highlights on this ecumenical value will include some related wisdom quotes, texts from God's words or Holy Scripture, and analytical and rational foundations. The following premises shows the universality of this concept. So in Islam, the word love is at the core of the Quranic teaching, and many verses declare the love of Allah. God loves the benefactor, inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin. God loves the just, inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin. God loves the patient, inna Allah yuhibbul sabirin. And there is the beautiful verse about empathy in Surah 41, Ayah 34, the verse 34. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. Treat or consider friendship with whom between you and him there is enmity, and treated him as a devoted friend. So in the equivalent in this in the New Testament, we'll see in Matthew 5:44 is saying, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you. And talking about the Old Testament from Corinthians 10:24, try to do what is good for others, not just what is good for yourself. In the New Testament, in the Gospel, Romans 12:15, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Then putting the accent also and the highlight on the patriarch Abraham faith. So with this, Prophet Muhammad said in a narrative in Hadith, Allah is forbearer and he loves forbearance. And in another narration, none of you will have faith till he wishes for his brother what he likes for himself. Imam Sadiq, the one of the 12th Imam of the holy progeny of Prophet Muhammad reported faith is love. And in the New Testament, where there were people trying to stone the lady in the famous story when Jesus stand and taught not only told the people that not only we should not be judgmental, but we should have mercy with this, even with the sinner. So he said, he told the crowd, he who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. I shared some of the from some Oriental holy scriptures, one from the Gita for Hindu religion, that quote saying, when a person responds to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were his own, he has attained the highest state of spiritual union. And as well from this, I had included a chart from Confucianism, talking about empathy and explaining. So if this is a little bit more detailed, but this is explaining how to be empathetic, including listening to others. And this is as an introduction to come to the rationale, because there is the mindful, the analytical part of it, saying knowing the other party, listening to others, doing what other party is doing, sometimes in mimicking the gesture and conversation, coming to the concern of the other party, specifically knowing on fulfilling the needs of the other party, and more importantly, showing care and concern. So in the rational, in the analytical reasoning, I would say empathy is a rational virtue, for it benefits both the individual and the society. The assumption is that empathy is usually reciprocal, since people since people usually respond to it in the same manner. And that is explained by the following narration by Prophet Muhammad: إن القلوب جبلت القلوب على حب من أحسن إليها. Hearts are fond of loving those who do good to them. So the positive effect on the social order would be tremendously positive in the presence of empathy, since the involved parties would tend to sympathize with each other, therefore reduce bigotry and hatred. And that meaning, empathy among individuals implies solidarity, and there is no doubt about the constructive impact of the solidarity on the productivity of the society. Empathy refers to understanding others' experience from within their frame of reference. It is a mechanism through which we bridge the gap between experience and thought, as Rumi stated, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi stated in his Mathnawi, if you can straighten out your own beastly self, you have the right to claim Solomon's kingdom. So in a practical, there is a lot of evidence about the positive effect of empathy in a workplace, specifically in all the different fields. But one of the definitions of empathy, or implications of empathy, is how to make people feel good around you. And there is a nice quote saying, people will never forget how you made them feel. And it's all about how you make others feel about themselves. And there is another beautiful quote saying, how you make others feel about themselves says a lot about you. So this is of course the effect of empathy is on leadership, and I like the quote of the Japanese philosopher Daisuke Aikida, who said that a person who cannot genuinely empathize with others can never excel as a leader. So much of what ails society today is the result of too many people in leadership positions who do not or cannot identify with the plight of their fellow men and women. And there is a pretty nice quote from in the peak of eloquence from Imam Ali, salam, saying, magnanimous is the tool of leadership. آلة الرياسة سعة الصدر. You can say also forbearance is the tool of leadership as well, in that meaning. This is a representation, and I'm coming soon to the end, that those are the components of empathy. So this in an example, to get rid of the ego or trying to helping get apart or reduce the ego is being empathetic. And with your observation, when you're talking to another party, and instead of saying, I hear, I see, I probably do that without paying attention, but it's more say, more, so you heard, so you saw, instead of I feel, so you feel that, or for the needs, coming up to the needs of person, saying, I would like, instead of you are wanting, instead of I would like, or you would like me to, instead of I would like you to be willing to. And I put those two and the ventricles of the heart just to mimic the context of empathy. So that is a chart, and I'm coming soon to wrapping up of empathetical demeanor at workplace. So, for example, if a worker is saying, I'm not feeling well today, I mean, the response for empathy from the supervisor would be, I'm sorry you are sick. Have you been to the doctor? Another example, if the colleague is stressed out and saying, I'm nervous about my final, for example, if it's a student or pursuing another degree while at work. So the response, empathetic response would be, it sounds like you have a lot of work. Do you think office hours help? Etc. Like there are plenty of examples that we can elaborate on. That to quantify that meaning, the semantic, put it in a syntax, put in empathy in a formula. So emotional, I mean, what it matters for empathy is content and having the emotion and having that interaction, plus listening and response, be interactive and be responsive. In closing, I would say in this period of coronavirus upheaval, in this time of healthcare turbulence and economic hardship, isolation and fear, monopoly and hoarding, one must better experience the importance and need for empathy and compassion amidst despair and uncertainty. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any comments, Imam?
Yeah, you know, it's another conspiracy theory. Honestly, I didn't know that Dr. Firas is going to address the issue of empathy, which is very fundamental discussion, both in Ramadan and also going through this crisis, coronavirus. I was reading an article yesterday, actually in New York Times, in Washington Post, from Professor Richard, who is lecturer at Harvard University, and I think in charge of the psychology department in Harvard University. And this was about empathy, that he started by saying empathy is at the heart of what it means to be human. The foundation for good relationships and professional success. So I encourage everyone, those who watch us, to, you can Google it. You can go to Washington Post, that was May 5th, yesterday, or you can just generally Google it under Professor or Dr. Richard, the article about empathy. And it's a very long article that he encourages the family, because now the children are in the house and more time between parents and children at home. He is saying that really this is a good opportunity that we develop this sense of empathy in our children, so they reject prejudice, they reject stereotyping, and they always try to understand the other aspects, other perspectives. So showing this understanding and compassion. So I think this, thank you, Dr. Firas, very, very good subject. And by coincidence, I just read that article, and I save it to read it later on. But everybody can Google that. Again, that Professor Richard in Washington Post, May 5th. The subject is how to teach our children the lesson of empathy. Thank you.
And Maulana, the topic sentence, when I started jotting my notes, the first topic sentence that came to my mind is empathy defines our humanity. Mm-hmm. And it is a nice coincidence that you mentioned that also, even though I forgot to put it in my presentation.
Because the kids, they already have the capacity in their fitra. God designed human nature, conscience, in a way that we have empathy, but we need to be developing it. We need to be educated, so we exercise it. So we practice that empathy.
Thank you. The fact that you're both thinking about it, I guess great minds think alike. So we thank you to both of you. And we're going to continue with our program. Welcome to the Islamic House of Wisdom nightly program. And as I mentioned before, we decided to bring in distinguished leaders in our community to share their experience and their inspiration and with everyone. And today we're honored to have Dr. Judge David Turfe. He's a doctor as well. And he is the Judicial District Court in Dearborn Heights, the judge there. Dr. Turfe graduated from Wayne State University in 1987 with his JD, which is a Juris Doctor, and from the University of Michigan College of Law in 1991. Let me repeat that. He received his undergraduate from Wayne State University in 1987, and his JD was Juris and a doctorate from Michigan State University in 1991. Before he became a judge, he was a trial lawyer for 15 years, and then he ran for office the first time. And I always use Judge Turfe as the example of the person who he was within reach of a few votes, and this is why it's important. We'll talk about that later on. And Judge Turfe, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And said Khalil, one title you forgot. I mean, he is a judge, honorable judge, and attorney, but he is a Hajj as well. I think that the title of Hajj is not less than judge. So
not only that, I was blessed to go to the Hajj with you with the same time you went, Maulana. So.
Well, he didn't tell me that he went to the Hajj. He went to the Hajj behind my back. So now I'm glad that I know that he's a Hajj.
I was blessed. I went a couple of times.
Not only Hajj, Hajjan Mabrura.
Yes. And since you went with Imam Elahi, then it's a double Hajj, inshallah, with the blessing of Imam Elahi. Dr. Turfe, please share a little bit more about you, your inspiration, why you wanted to become a judge, and what is it that you do?
Well, alhamdulillah, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me tonight, Maulana and Dr. Hachem. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to address your audience, and I'm very grateful for that. Number one, Ramadan Kareem to everybody out there. Inshallah, Allah showers the blessings of Ramadan to all of your viewers, Maulana. Alhamdulillah, you know, I always got to mention my father, Hajj Muhammad Turfe, because he really was my inspiration in my life. My mother as well too, but my father, he was the ultimate, in my humble opinion, community servant, and he instilled that in me from the beginning, and basically helping people.
Yeah, he was an example to all of us.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Absolutely.
And really, I wouldn't obviously not be here today because, you know, he was my father, but I graduated from Wayne State in 1987, as you indicated, and I was ready to go to work in the workforce. I had a business degree, and as I was sitting, like I'm sitting here, I had a discussion with my father, and he said, son, did you ever think about going to law school? And this was in August of 1987. I said, no, I didn't. I never thought about it. So the next day, I went to Henry Ford College and bought this book, the law school admission test book. I started reading it. Like 2-3 weeks later, I took the LSAT, the law school admission test. And then, alhamdulillah, in January of '88, I was enrolled in law school, just like that. I mean, so my dad obviously was very instrumental in me going to law school. And alhamdulillah, from there, seeing the work that my dad did and Maulana and everybody else in the community, it's sort of the community servant sort of ingrained in myself. And inshallah, I'm going to pass that on to my kids, inshallah. And you know, that's what we are. What are we in life? We're community servants. And how many lectures have I heard Imam Elahi say that, what do we leave this life with? With our deeds. We don't leave it with our houses, with our cars, with our money. We leave it with our deeds. And whatever good deeds that we can leave behind, alhamdulillah, inshallah, that scale will tip in our favor when we're kneeling, you know, before God on the day of judgment. And so, alhamdulillah, I passed the bar exam, and here I am, you know, some 29 years later. Actually, it's my wedding anniversary. We celebrated it yesterday because I got married, and the reason why I always remember that, I got married on May 5th, 1991. I got my bar results on May 4th, 1991, the day before the wedding. I didn't know if I was more happy with my bar results or getting married. I was so everything happened all at once. But
a double blessing.
Wonderful family, wonderful wife, and alhamdulillah, it's been good. And now at the Vintage Bell Cultural Center, we're trying to, you know, put some projects together there. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Could you tell us more about the Vintage Bell Cultural Center?
It was founded by my father 26 years ago. And alhamdulillah, he got a few people from Vintage Bell, about 100 of us. They all donated a little bit of money, loaned actually a little bit of money. And he got all this money together. He built this beautiful facility. And alhamdulillah, it blossomed. And now we're trying to put this Hasaniyya together. It sort of stalled a little bit because of the pandemic. But now we're back on track, and it's a beautiful facility on Prospect, 14201 Prospect in Dearborn, and inshallah, God willing, it should, you know, hopefully, it's sort of the timing is a little bit off now because of the pandemic, but inshallah, maybe late in December, early next year, inshallah, it's a beautiful community center, you know, to help the needs of our community. But alhamdulillah, 100 wonderful, great members started off that institution, and it's blossomed ever since.
And you know, something said Khalil, tonight is a night of amazing coincidence, because Dr. Firas talked about empathy, and I mentioned that good article. And now Hajj Judge David Turfe, he mentioned about May 5th, which is anniversary, and so much inspiration. One coincident, Hajj David, today in the morning, when I went to check my Facebook, you know, sometimes the Facebook reminds you memories of like on the same day something happened last year or something happened 2 years ago. Subhanallah, when I check my Facebook today, which is May 6th, right? Today was May 6th, right? And it says that in May 6, 2018, congratulations to Bint Jubail Cultural Center in Dearborn. Subhanallah, it showed that, and then there is a photo that your father, Allah yarhamu, Hajj Muhammad Turfe, and Jai Salami and some other members of Bint Jubail, and that happened on May 6, 2018, exactly 2 years ago today. We had a celebration like tonight, 2 years ago, and subhanallah, your dad was sound and, you know, still okay. I mean, he was suffering, we knew, but he is still sitting at the table. And a day later, and you made a very impressive, inspiring lecture on that day. I think you talk about success, and that's something I ask you tonight, that if you remember some points from that lecture. But then I wrote, when I left that meeting that night, 2018, on May 6th, I wrote this on my Facebook. I said, I would like to say congratulations to Bint Jubail Cultural Center in Dearborn, to its founding father, Hajj Muhammad Turfe, President Ziad Nasser, Judge David Turfe, and the center's board members for their successful annual scholarship dinner, contributing to education of our new generation. No expression can appreciate enough the amazing contribution of the Muslim community in general and the Lebanese American community in particular to our cities, societies, and moral values. These people represent Jabal Amal's centuries of civilization, education, and a spiritual legacy. We wish them the best, in particular the students, the recipients of the award. So subhanallah, I opened and it was like a gift for me. I said, you know, tonight we are going to talk with Judge Turfe, and this happened 2 years ago. Allah yarhamu, your father, who was really always in my heart too. Hajj, anytime that I think about your father, the time that he was still trying to put together effort to establish Nadim and Jubail, and he faced so much challenges in our community. It was not easy at that time. We are talking about 25 years ago, 26 years ago. And I remember that his faith, his determination, you know, he never like hesitated in what he wanted for the community, and nothing could change his determination. God bless his soul, and we are very, very proud of you, your family, and yours. And you know, the fact that he chose the name of David for you, isn't it amazing that David was a judge, right? Yeah. I mean, he said David, because the Quran says, Ya Dawood, you know, go and judge between people in truth. So your name is David's name, and your job is David's job. So everything worked together.
Funny story, Molena. You know, everybody used to say, well, I changed my name so I could run for office. I said, that was my given name. My father gave me David Daher Turfe, and I had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I used to go to my mother, I says, you know, why did I have to have blonde hair, blue eyes? I want to look like the rest of my people. I want to, you know, she says, she always used to say, be patient. Allah has a plan for you. Allah has a, she always used to tell me that. And subhanAllah, look what happened so many years later. You know, it's, you know, the name and the features sort of helped when I ran for office.
I'm sorry, said Khalil, it just came to my mind. I had to say it. I don't want to interfere in your moderation, but I could not to say that. It was that was beautiful. Coincidence is so amazing that, you know, I had to say it.
Oh, it's beautiful, and I think Hajj Muhammad is, as I mentioned, he was an inspiration to all of us, and he was a great friend of Islamic House of Wisdom and all the centers and all the causes. And Fatiha ala ruh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. To his soul and the soul of his wife, Hajj and Hajj, to both of them.
Absolutely. We're going to have more questions for you, Dr. Turfe. Judge Turfe, I always want to call you Dr. Turfe, but you're both, but we're going to go Judge Turfe. I'd like to welcome another great leader in our community. And, this person is an inspiration to me. He found one of the most interesting and useful thing for our youth. And, every time somebody mentioned the name Ali Sayyid, I just think if I were to look up success in the dictionary, it would be like a photo of Ali Sayyid there. And I'm really honored to really know Ali, and Ali, welcome. And thank you so much for being with us. Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem to all of you and your families, and I appreciate your kind words, but I stand on the pillars of Judge David and yourself and Imam Elahi. So thank you for laying the pavement down for us. Thank you, Hajj. Thank you.
Wonderful neighbor. We are so honored that you are our neighbor, and your place and your services next door. That's an honor for us.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you the same thing, Ali, and that is, tell us a little bit about you, about your organization, and all the services that you provide to our youth, and your inspiration as well.
Well, thank you. So I started Hype back in 2001, and the mission then was to provide drug-free, violent-free, and athletic environments, diverse athletic environments. So we wanted to use sports to bridge the gap between the different communities that were brought up in Dearborn, and it worked. Not only did it work, it blossomed, very well, to the point where we expanded to different communities that had the same issues that we had, as far as not being able to connect or promote or advocate for unity and acceptance and tolerance through sports, of course, right? So we began to offer after-school programs, summer activities in Dearborn, Livonia, Wayne, Westland, Plymouth and Canton, Hamtramck, Detroit, Allen Park, Lincoln Park, and we just kept expanding into different communities with the mission to create these environments that allowed for kids to grow, learn, live, socialize, and have these similar opportunities to continue to have fun as kids. And in 2010, we received support and funding from Wayne County and the federal government through a program, and we built our first facility in Dearborn Heights, and opened in 2012. And since then, thousands upon thousands of people have come through our facility for programming, for tournaments, for educational services, for social services, and so on. And of course, all of you have come as well, and I'm honored to call you Hype members.
Absolutely.
So thank you. In 2015, we took over a facility in the city of Wayne. That facility was closed down. It was voted to close down by the city. So we hurried up and appealed that the closure of a community center would be devastating to the community, as it was to the city of Detroit when the city decided to close down. There were 30 or 40 community centers at that time, back in the year 2000. So since then, we've grown to offer a variety of different services: social and athletic and recreation and health and fitness. One service in particular, really took a launch without a desire, to be honest with you. It's nothing that we're excited to get into, but it was an epidemic in our community that we didn't understand. We weren't, familiar with it. Our parents didn't know anything about it. The schools didn't know anything about it. There was the embarrassment and the stigma behind it. So we didn't really talk about it if we had a problem within our household. And that is, the substance abuse, mental health, and behavioral health epidemic. So again, in about 2016, we launched the Safe Substance Abuse Coalition out of Hype. And the mission was to, educate our community on the different types of illnesses that occur within a household, within the community, how to cope, how to address, how to seek help, and offer resources. And that too expanded, and in both a variety of different areas, such as the number of people we served, and the openness and the willingness to share their stories to help other people that were also, similar in their lifestyle. So in 2019, actually August last year, we purchased a facility in Lincoln Park that's going to be converted into a substance abuse and mental health treatment facility. That's going to be called the Safe Wellness Center. We're projecting, inshallah, to open this coming fall, maybe October. We were as well delayed with the Husseiniya. We're delayed as well. The city completely closed down, so there's no communication with anybody. So we understand your struggles, Hajj David. But inshallah, by the fall, October sometime, we'll be ready to go and launch and be able to help serve our community and our population in addressing both from educating, preventing. There's a diversion issue, so kids that are being exposed to these issues at a very young age, we can address the issue immediately rather than waiting until it, literally explodes in the family or in the household.
Sure. How is obviously COVID-19 affecting your programs, and what have you done to make up for it?
Yeah, so we've been closed since March 16th. It's been extremely tough for our employees. It's been very tough for all of us, but more importantly, it's been tough for our families and our kids. I receive calls daily from families and parents telling us that, we miss hype. We need to come. We can't wait to come back. And it's sad. It's sad to hear that. So unfortunately, we had to postpone all of our programs. Summer activities have all been postponed. We don't have an open date. We don't have a date of when we can resume. So of course, we've tried to maintain our presence as a service provider, and we have to remain agile, just as every other organization has remained agile in a sense where we have to adapt to what's needed in the community. So we were able to get our hands on some full body gowns, and we were able to donate them to Beaumont Hospital, and face masks and other gloves and other material, cleaning supplies, sanitizers have also been contributed to many other facilities and municipalities. And actually just today, we received 700 meals, and we distributed them to families in the city of Wayne, as well as a few in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. Majority were in Wayne Westland area though.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to make up.
Online?
We have fitness programs and fitness classes so that people can exercise and stay active at home. They're the hype at home workouts. They're great. A lot of people are loving them. It's still not the same as being in the gym. It's not the same as running and being active and dribbling a basketball. This COVID-19 issue has caused a drop in morale across this country. We don't have the energy or the excitement that we once had. I mean, I see it, I hear it, and I feel it in a lot of people's tone when you talk to them, and it's unfortunate. Inshallah, Ya Rab, we're able to overcome this sooner than later, and we can bring our lives back to normal, inshallah.
Sounds good. Judge, how does these programs that Hype and similar organizations provide, make your job easier? So you don't have to see.
It absolutely does. In fact, we partnered and utilized Hype services in our probation department. So when we get somebody that has a mental illness or has a drug addiction or what have you, we refer them to Hype and their SAFE program, and alhamdulillah, they've done very well there. So it's sort of a partnership that we've developed, and unfortunately this COVID-19 sort of stalled it a little bit, obviously for a variety of reasons. And speaking of which, we are still operating in the court. I mean, the doors are locked, but people can still mail in, just for the viewers' information. People can still mail in civil filings and things like that. And we do service the in custody people that are in custody, because it's not right just to keep them in jail. We do have to service them. So we do service that. And pretty soon, probably the next week, we're going to expand a little bit more with some possible live preliminary examinations or trials or what have you. So little by little, we sort of have to loosen the reins, and obviously we're taking the lead from the governor when she sort of gives us the full okay to sort of do some things, but we still have to be functional because people's still lives depend on the court system and things like that.
What kind of cases do you preside over, Judge?
We actually we're the district court, and you know the levels of the court. You have the district court, the county courts, the Court of Appeals, and the Michigan Supreme Court. So we're the people's court, as we're commonly known as. And we handle all cases. So if a felony or a murder case or a life felony case happens in our city, it begins in our court.
Okay.
So it's what they call a preliminary examination, and we determine if there's enough evidence for these defendants to stand trial. And if we do, then we send them downtown to have their trial. So we do those. We do misdemeanor cases, ordinances cases, landlord, tenants, small claims, and of course we do traffic tickets. Most people's exposures to the district court are traffic matters.
Yeah.
And so we sort of want to give them a good impression of the court system to let them know that you will get a fair trial, and we don't discriminate or what have you. And so we want to give people that good impression in the district court.
We're blessed in Michigan that we have a cohesive Middle Eastern community. What are some of the challenges you see in our community, Judge?
Challenges, and Hajj Ali, he alluded to one very big one is the addictions. It's an issue. A drug addiction is an issue. Mental
illness.
It's an issue. And Hajj is exactly right when he states that we as parents, and it could be myself too as a parent, we're shy and we say, oh, not our kids, not this, not that, and we don't want to talk about those subjects, but we have to. It's just not about our children. It's about maybe we can affect somebody else's child as well, to let them know that hey, this is an issue. And so that was very prevalent, and it still is, and we do need to address it. And look at all of these deaths. They're younger and younger children, and I call them children that are dying.
Yeah.
We can't just keep masking it by saying heart attack or this or that. It's reality, and we have to do it.
I was looking at the report today, actually, by Judge Turfe, that says that in the United States at this time, there are more than 400,000 American kids that they live in foster care system. It's just amazing number, 400,000 children that they are removed from their families because of negligence, because of drugs that you just mentioned. Many of them, were removed from their families just because of drugs or abuse or other reasons. And it's just horrible. I mean, for the kids now, deprived of their biological parents and live in different environment, and especially during this, crisis that we are going now, the coronavirus, is just, it causes even more depression. And when more depression, then more drugs, and more drugs, then more violence, and more violence, more, the jails are full of them. And then get out of jails again, more problems. So it's a cycle of really disappointing situation that then it goes back to the parenting and the responsibility of the parents and how to raise right kids in this society that facing so many struggles. It's very, very important.
Ali, Judge Turfe mentioned that called you by Hajj. Did you also go to Hajj behind my back?
Yeah, I have been there a couple of times. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Don't you see the light of Hajj in his face, Said Khalil? I mean, come on.
I didn't. I mean, he's blessed with that, but I didn't know he also went to Hajj. So
I just had a good dinner. That's all that is.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to ask you, you provide safe after school programs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all these young kids, instead of being somewhere where it's not safe, they're there, they're safe. You monitor them really, really well. Could you tell us a little bit more about these programs and what else you see? What else you see in the community? Some of the challenges.
Of course, yeah. So just to add to Imam Elahi's point with regards to neglect and abuse cases within the United States, as well as the foster care and adoption ratios that are taking place, it's alarming. It's really bad. But you know, looking at today's situation with the coronavirus and the stimulus checks that are going out, and everybody collecting unemployment, people staying at home, the behavioral health and mental health issues are so alarming right now today more than ever, that once we overcome this corona issue, we don't know what we're facing with. You know, to Judge David Turfe's you know, concerns with the courts, you know, people are going to go broke after this corona issue, you know, and this summer is going to be a very tough summer. And we're seeing overdoses rise. We're seeing mental health and behavioral health issues rise right now. Drugs are rampant on the streets. Everyone has money to pay for them. So we really have to do a better job as a community to, one, educate ourselves, two, seek help and support when and if necessary, and don't be shy about it, you know. So to answer your question, Sayyid Khalil, you know, SAFE has a variety of in-school, in-class substance abuse education programs for kids. We have a variety of you know, recreation activities for kids that are titled under our SAFE program, due to the fact that once you control the environment, you're eliminating one of the risk factors. The risk factors being, you know, that, you know, what you know, basically can increase the risk of either mental behavior, criminal, or substance abuse related activity. Could even allude to low academic performance, and peer issues, things of that nature too. We also have in-house family and individual therapy. We're launching a mobile crisis and stabilization program this summer, inshallah, which will allow for vehicles, our staff comprised of psychiatrists, therapists, peer recovery coaches, to actually go to the home and provide therapeutic or psychiatric services on the spot. And if required, stabilization services will be offered out of our Lincoln Park facility. This will eliminate a lot of pressure off of the emergency room departments and many hospitals who are taking on these cases, and you know, are not really equipped with the personnel to provide adequate continuum of care services for the patient. So what's happening is, you know, they're coming into the emergency room centers or departments, and they're being discharged sometimes after a few hours. They stabilize them with whatever medication they need at the time, and then they're released to the streets. So
as far as the challenges in the community, what do you see some of the challenges in addition to addiction?
Yeah, there's many. The challenge is, number one, we're still having that problem where we have to really rely on our parents to educate and to learn and to understand and how to cope with issues that arise in the household. You know, today kids are you know, seeing things on YouTube and on video games, and they're in chat groups, and they're on, you know, they're out in different sorts of environments that the parents, you know, don't understand. So we have to go back to our old times of, you know, you can trust your child, you know, but there's expectations, you know, that the kids still have to earn that trust, regardless if you give it to them blindly or not. But, you know, some of the other challenges that occur with social economic status of many families, you know, living at or below their means, I'm sorry, above their means, I apologize, you know, which is really restricting a lot of extra time that families can spend with their children, because they're having to work so much and so hard. You know, again, going back, there's over 40 severe mental illnesses that have been identified. There's over 40, you know. Wow. The average person knows 5, you know, if that, maybe 3. So there's a lot to learn. And that's one of the setbacks we and across the country we are faced with, this challenge. So one of the projects we're working on with SAFE is, it's called Project US 2030, Project US 2030, which highlights an opportunity and provides resources to mosques, churches, municipalities, school districts, all the above, to have the adequate resources and information and the process and procedure on how to implement these types of services in their own community based on what their community needs. Yeah. So we have, we may not, you may not see it, you know, I know the judge sees it, but there's a severe heroin issue in our community. And it's severe enough to where, you know, we keep shoving it under the rug. We have to educate ourselves. What is it?
We have to face that. We have
to address it. Exactly. So there's issues, and obviously one of the biggest challenges we have, and I'll conclude with that, is, you know, spirituality. You know, it's in every Narcotics Anonymous book, Alcoholics Anonymous books. They're in the 12 steps. Spirituality is part of recovery. Spirituality is a savior of life. We're trying to promote that as heavy as we can. And, you know, there's that fight that the mosques and the imams and the you know, shuyukh and siyad are all fighting. There's a lack of that in our community right now as well.
Yeah.
May I add something as well?
Go ahead, please. I was gonna move to you. Please.
There's another issue of concern I have, and it's this right here.
Yes.
This cell phone is causing, especially the Generation Z children or what have you, lack of communication. They don't know how to communicate anymore. They communicate with their thumbs. They can't communicate like you and I are engaging. You know, and this is what we do in this record. We engage. A lot of kids can't engage anymore. So, and here's what I mean by that, and it trickles down. Back in the day, when I had an issue or a question, who did I go see? I went to my father, or I went to my mother, or into my older siblings. But now, the child, if he has a question, guess where he goes? Google. He goes to Google.
Yeah.
And therefore, that disengagement with the family, that's where the family is disengaged, because there's no more closeness, because he'd rather go to the phone and get the answer in 2 seconds than wait for his father and mother to come home from work.
Yeah.
And so that's a concern, and this family structure is being threatened.
What should parents do?
I wish I had the right answer. Because everybody, it seems like a child coming from the womb has an iPhone in their hand. You know, and there are some good things. The phone can, you know, you can access information from the phone. Yeah. So there are good things you can get from the phone. And so it's you know, I wish I had the answer.
You know, just sympathy with the parents, because a lot of parents, they are suffering from the same thing that we are talking about. I mean, they know their expectation, and they don't want to see their sons or the daughters the way they are. And they come and they ask us that, what should we do? Is there any prayer, any miracle, anything that can help? And really, they suffer more than anyone else. And as you said, Judge David, that really they don't know what to do. Though if they had this sensitivity and supervision from day number one, probably things were more under control.
Right.
But when you leave it for a while, and you know, 10 years later, it's very, very hard to control. It's, you know, they get even violent. And I know that you deal with this in the court, when the kids, they, you know, even use gun against their own parents. I mean, your job is very, very tough. You know, I feel sympathy even for judges like you, who want to do judgment based on moral issues and legal issues and truthfulness of the situation. Yeah. And in such a confusing thing, how you can go to the depth of the truth and find out exactly right and wrong is very, really frustrating situation. But I agree with Ali that spirituality, we have to focus on that from day number one.
Absolutely. This is what I was going to ask you, Imam. You get a lot of.
If you can allow me to pitch in, My apology for interjection, but I see parental control is very sensitive and is very important. And it's pretty feasible to learn. Just the parents need to put some time really. But they can have control over all the electronic devices at home, from the router, setting parental control on the router, setting parental control on the browser, on the computer also, which programs are allowed, which are not. It's all that is feasible, but it requires parents a little bit of learning.
Yeah.
And that can resolve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You know, the same subject that you were talking, Dr. Firas, the issue of empathy, I think we need to exercise this empathy at home too. I mean, it should start from home. When there is empathy between parents and children, that there is really understanding.
Yeah.
So but it takes some patience. I mean, it takes patience, it takes time, it takes communication. If parents patiently communicate with their kids and show understanding and balance the situation. So to understand their feeling, but then through right communication and right relationship, they teach them what is the best way. I think, and then the kids are convinced that my dad is right, my mom is right. So it's empathy from the family. It starts from the family, but it's really a matter of patience, a matter of communication, and matter of understanding. It's a big journey, no doubt about it.
Imam,
I can add-
So Maulana, empathy and control are the two things we can say.
Okay, Imam.
I just want to add.
Yeah, go ahead, Ali.
Sayed, sorry. So the reality is why kids are so attracted to their phones and to their computers is because they're bored, and parents are boring. You know, they don't go out and try to play catch with their kids. Hajj David, like when we were kids, they don't go out and encourage their kids to go to the park and run with them and play soccer with them. And the parents have, and Imam, you mentioned this earlier, parents are also distracted with the phone and with technology and with social media and the attraction and the attention that they seek from it. And it's a disease, but the reality is, trust me, our kids want their parents' attention. The kids would rather sit with their parents and get that unconditional love and compassion from the parent than anything else. But we parents have to do a better job at not being as boring.
One example, Ali, that, and it's very good subject. I appreciate that Hajj Dave raised it. Like today, you saw our son, Muhammad Hussein, he came and he recited the Quran tonight, right? So from the morning, that was our discussion. He said that, can I go and have like half an hour, have game on the computer? And I told him, Muhammad Hussein, no problem. You can have a game even for 1 hour. But first do this. If you practice this chapter for me and just sit down and first of all, listen to the tapes on your computer, other reciters, how they recite this chapter, and learn it and practice it. And when you are ready, come to me and read it. And then you can go and have your game. And he came in the middle of the day and he said, I'm ready. Can I go there? And then I continue that. I was about to do so, but his mom came and said, no, you have to go and complete that and come to your dad and recite it. If you are done with that, then you feel free, you go. I'm saying this kind of balance that he was really crying, literally crying for watching game. It's just like a paralyzing that how much attachment that this boy has it. But then when we communicate in the right way that, well, we understand you can have a right game. Of course, we have to see what type of game is that though, but a healthy game. But at the same time, to show this understanding, this communication, and get to some compromise, some reconciliation in this relationship. So we are happy and he is happy. That's the only way probably that we can do it with empathy. Again, we go to that.
You wanna see him happier? Play with him one day.
Yeah, that is even more.
Play the game. Play the game. He'll be ecstatic.
I wish I could this, but I'm not.
Yeah, let him teach you. Let him teach you.
Get him a hype membership. He'll be more happy.
There you go.
He would teach me, right? He would teach me. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Judge, you're saying something.
No, I was just saying, get him a hype membership. Then he'll be really happy.
Absolutely. As much as we can provide games or activities with the children together, Ali has a very interesting point. We just don't take enough time to really spend with our kids, and then we need to be the leaders and showing our children that. I literally have been to places where everybody is sitting in the corner looking at their phone. This is the same family. They don't talk to each other for hours and hours and hours, And if adults are doing that, then children are going to do it even worse. They're going to be a lot more. Judge, what would you like to see to tackle this issue, the phone issue, and on all of that? What can be done about it?
Well, Imam Elahi hit it right on the head. Is children are like sponges early on. And you got to get them early on. And if you teach them early on, then it becomes much easier later on in their lives, because later on it becomes too late, and now you're fighting an uphill battle. But society has taken us to this point whereby the mom and the dad are working, and so to play devil's advocate with the parents have to get more involved. Sometimes they'd like to get more involved, but they can't get more involved because they're both working, trying to make ends meet, and therefore there's a lot of lag time with the child. So that's an issue as well too.
Absolutely.
And what this COVID-19, alhamdulillah, silver lining, if you will, has kept everybody home. And so
agreed.
A lot of us are reunited with our kitchen, for example. We're reunited with our homes, with our children. And now we have to talk to them and face issues with them. And so if there is a silver lining, inshallah, that is it. That we've seen our family structure come back into play. And and as Muslims, we get that every Ramadan. That's why Ramadan is amazing, because before the other 11 months out of the year, how often do we sit down and eat with our whole family? Let's be honest with each other.
Exactly.
During Ramadan, 30 days out of the year, we're sitting with each other. So alhamdulillah, Islam allows us to do that. And so we don't need a COVID-19 pandemic.
Hajj David, I wish that community in general, all of us take advantage of this situation. It is very bad, it is very sad, it's a crisis. We are dealing with a deadly disease. It's not joking, it's a real war. We are dealing with the worst enemies, this virus. But at the same time, as you said, it gave us this opportunity to be together. Unfortunately, some people take it for granted, don't take advantage of it, and instead of utilizing this opportunity in a positive and constructive way, they make it negative. More fighting, more domestic violence, more problems, and it is just opposite thing. That's why when I drive through Hype, some of the days that I stop by in the office, and it breaks my heart. I mean, the parking lot in Hype always full of cars. I mean, the past, and everybody was excited. The family bringing the kids in a healthy environment. They take this energy out of themselves and in a friendly atmosphere. So really, we have this opportunity, but at the same time, we are missing things like that kind of exercise, like Hype, like House of Wisdom, like other centers that in the absence of those services, we are suffering as well. So it's very confusing situation, so much confusion, so much uncertainty, so much insecurity. We need lots of prayer in this month of Ramadan.
Faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Jeff Turfe?
You know, Imam Elahi mentioned something about success, and I'm not just saying this because, you know, Islamic House of Wisdom is hosting this, you know, this forum here, but there's only one key to success, and that's faith. You have to have faith, and encompassing faith, patience, perseverance, because you're going to have setbacks along the way, and you got to have faith in God because God is the master planner. God knows what's best for you more than you know what's best for you. And certainly I can use a lot of examples in my life, how things happened in my life, that these setbacks were the greatest things that ever happened to me, because then later on down the line, Allah planned something for me that that he knew was better for me. So for what I think I can say is have faith. Always believe in God. God is the master planner.
Ali?
Your faith.
I want to first thank you all for the opportunity to be on the show, and thank you, really thank you for doing this for the community. It's an amazing opportunity for others to learn and to listen and to grow as a community. So thank you first and foremost for that. And I want to just say, I definitely concur with everything Hajj David just mentioned with regards to faith, and to give praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also to seek his forgiveness and to beg for his guidance and his mercy. And we have to understand human development, in that sense, with regards to the physical, the mental, the emotional, which is critical during this time right now, the social, which is also critical, social, external and internal. Social internal development with the family, with your siblings, with how to interact and how to talk and understand and learn, but most importantly, spiritual development.
Absolutely.
This is the time where I encourage our families to sit with their kids and learn. If you don't know, watch a video or a lecture online. If you don't know the answer, if you don't feel confident enough to answer certain things or discuss certain topics, there's so much online today that you can learn from on any topic. And let's just pray together as a community that we overcome this coronavirus and this COVID issue. And our parking lot, like your parking lot, Sheikh Elahi, excluding Hajj David's parking lot, we want that one to be empty, but all of ours to be full again, inshallah. And Saeed, so you can come and play some volleyball, man. We miss you over there.
We miss you too. And I want to bring in Brother Mahdi as well. And you're muted, Brother Mahdi. And just like to include you with a comment here, please. We always learn from your wonderful comments.
No. Assalamu alaikum to Khalil, Imam Elahi, Dr. Firas, Hajj, Judge, Dr. David Turfe, too many titles to go through, and Hajj Ali Sayyid. If I heard correctly, Judge David, you were talking about taking the bar exam the day before your wedding. I mean, that's some type of...
No, I got my results the day before the wedding.
The results before. That's extreme kind of pressure. But pressure builds diamonds, and you're definitely one of the gems of our community.
Thank you.
An example of success and perseverance. I remember when I was younger, you may have not known, but I was in the crowd one time for one of your presentations talking about how you would go knocking door to door about election, and even though that it wasn't hopeful for you to win, you kept going, and you ended up becoming successful. So that's something that stuck by me. And I think that a lot of the times what we don't realize is that words really affect people. Words really touch people, especially when it comes from the elder people in the community. And that's something that, like Hajj Ali Sayyid was mentioning, that parents really need to sit down and connect with each other. And it's interesting that Dr. Firas included the topic of empathy. So to really give a general comment, I don't want to take too much of your time. I think it's important to distinguish between empathy and sympathy. Empathy is us putting ourselves in the shoes of the fellow man and really taking a look at it from their perspective, as opposed to sympathy sounds something like, you're going through that, I feel bad for you. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy, and I think that's a major issue that we have in our community. Is the way we speak with one another is just as important as what we're saying to each other. And that goes back to, Hype, for example, is closed. I'm sure that Hype, and Hajj Ali Sayyid described his programs, that when facilities like Hype are closed, that doesn't mean that children need to be absent-minded now, that they are built in within their fabric the ability to think and have conversation with one another. And when I think of the coronavirus, I think of an opportunity for parents to build bonds with their children. And it reminds me of a story of Benjamin Franklin. You know, when he was younger, he said, when we were sitting at the dinner table, my father would always invite a fellow neighbor over. And he would incite conversation because he knew we were all listening, and he wanted to make sure that we learned something from that. So I think now that we're all trapped under the same roof, although it may be a curse, at the same time, it's sort of a blessing that we can sit down at the dinner table and really, as parents and as children, going back to this concept of empathy, putting ourselves into the other person's shoes, putting ourselves in the other person's perspective and thinking, well, what is it that this person wants and how can I educate them? How can I make them happy? And Hajj Ali Sayyid brought up a really important thing, is boredom. And boredom is the devil's playground. And when we think about it, the more bored an individual is, the more they start to resort to things that they shouldn't. They resort to things that cause them to be absent-minded. For example, in Europe, you know, they did a study in Sweden that the level of alcohol and partying is so high in Sweden. And then when you correspond that with the level of spirituality that you mentioned, the amount of people who are spiritual, the amount of people who are agnostic and atheists, those are through the roof. So there's a correlation with alcohol and spirituality. Why? Because alcohol, you know, doesn't allow you to think properly. So, you know, when we put it all together, and I think about facilities like Hype, it doesn't allow for children to become bored because it allows you an opportunity to practice your mind, your body. But just as important, just like Ali Said was mentioning, spirit is a part of that formula as well. Mind, body, and spirit. So that if you don't have the opportunity to, for example, go to the gym, you're still within the confines of your own home. You have the ability to ponder on your own existence, which will hopefully lead to more spirituality and faith. So I just wanted to thank all of you panelists. And
Appreciate it.
It was an honor. It was an honor to hear all of you.
And Dr. Firas, final thought?
Yes. Thank you for this nice chatting over. And I would say that all religions revolve around the pivotal axis of empathy. So let's keep practicing empathy toward the spouses, toward the children, the family, the neighbors, and let us not permit social distancing to promote individualism, the society, and let us keep practicing empathy, and during this time, be more empathetic.
Thank you. Imam, could you lead us into prayer and so we can close the session?
Thank you, and I appreciate this. Was one of the best sessions of Ramadan. It's a month of blessing and month of beauty and month of duty, and we had all of the beauties of this month represented in our guest this evening, and I'm sure that thousands of other people anywhere in this world that would watch this program would be inspired and excited with the kind of experience and education that we received tonight from Dr. Firas, Hajj Ali Sayyid, and Honorable Judge Hajj David Turfe, and finally Mahdi Elahi. You know, Mahdi Elahi, Hajj Jennifer is going to come to me and say, where he get this example from? I mean, you didn't teach him this, all of this thing. Where he got it from? So it's a blessing. So let's pray. And today was 13th of Ramadan, starting with this dua of 13. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم طهرني فيه من الدنس والأقدار وصبرني فيه على كائنات الأقدار ووفقني فيه للتقى وصحبة الأبرار بعونك يا قرة عين المساكين. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية وصدق النية وعرفان الحرمة، وأكرمنا بالهدى والاستقامة، وسدد ألسنتنا بالصواب والحكمة، واملأ قلوبنا بالعلم والمعرفة، وطهر بطوننا من الحرام والشبهة، واكفف أيدينا عن الظلم والسرقة، واغضض أبصارنا عن الفجور والخيانة، واسدد أسماعنا عن اللغو والغيبة. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات، وتابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات، إنك مجيب الدعوات وقاضي الحاجات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. آمين يا رب العالمين.
Thank you all. Thank you, Imam. And thank you, Judge Turfe. Thank you, Dr. Hamade. Thank you, Mahdi. Thank you, Ali Sayyid, for being with us. And you have a good night. You have a blessed Ramadan.
Good night, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.